All set? You sure? Okay. Do we do a testing or anything for you? No, it's all good. I'll come sit here. All right, everyone here. Well, listen, kia ora, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. Can I just say thank you for joining myself and Louise for what I think is another one of our Rolling Thunder initiatives to drive more growth into the New Zealand economy. As I keep saying, economic growth is the only way that Kiwis will access higher paying jobs, more jobs, set up a great future for their kids and their grandkids, and ultimately also deliver us better public services like health and education. I just want to tell you that I think tourism is an incredibly special industry. It's made up of people with an immense talent, fantastic entrepreneurship, a collective passion for delivering an outstanding visitor experience each and every day across this country. I've got to say, I really love my job as Prime Minister, but I also really love my very first job as a porter concierge at the Park Royal Hotel in Christchurch. And I've got to tell you, that was a fantastic job. I got paid to talk to people, and as an extrovert, that was always fantastic. I got to drive some nice cars along the way too. But like many of us, we got our first jobs in tourism, and in those jobs we learned to show up for time, we learned to be part of a team, we learned to make sure that we deliver great customer experience, that we were ambassadors and representatives of New Zealand, shaping positive perceptions and a reputation for our country with overseas visitors. So it's a really important sector, and actually the success of the sector is really determined by how well the players within it work together, and actually because in the tourism sector you are seamlessly and constantly passing the baton and the visitor between each other within the sector. Their customers will tell their friends to come to New Zealand if the whole experience actually measures up, from the flights to the accommodation to the activities, and they benefit from each other's success, and they rely on each other not to slip up and to provide a suboptimal experience. And so it's a big ecosystem and a big family within tourism. So I just want to say to all the folk that work in tourism, thank you for what you do. It is really important to propel our country economically forward, but it's also really important in shaping perceptions and the reputation of New Zealand as a result as well. As you know, tourism is really important to our economy. It's $38 billion, employing almost 200,000 people. And what we do know is that actually since the COVID period, tourism sector and our visitor numbers haven't bounced back as they should, and as we want them and as we need them to do so. Airlines and airports and accommodation providers that are here, many of the leaders are here this morning with us, they are by no means the only beneficiaries of tourist spending. They in fact are the enablers for what is actually a thriving visitor economy. Because once tourists land in New Zealand, they are very quickly drawn into wonderful small businesses and hospitality venues up and down our country. Tourism disperses our visitors throughout the country, from big cities like Auckland here to small communities like the far north and also on the west coast of the South Island. So that tourism spending is so important because it happens on weeknights, it happens while we're all hard at work during the day, and when our local kids are back at school. And that international tourism actually props up the hospitality venues and the other attractions that make New Zealand such a vibrant and exciting place to live. And just to give you a feel for it, in a great hotel like this, every time we fill 2 hotel rooms, that's essentially another job being created in the tourism sector and in New Zealand. So our government is crystal clear that we want more tourists visiting our shores. It's a competitive market, and our job is to make sure we're at the top of people's list of places that they want to visit. So today I'm very pleased to be announcing with Louise a new campaign targeted at getting more Australian tourists to New Zealand to enjoy our wonderful late summer, autumn shoulder season. It's part of our Tourism Boost initiative, and we'll have more initiatives to announce shortly, but we are funding this from $500,000 from the International Visitor Conservation and Tourism Levy, and it's obviously also backed up by a significant amount of investment from much of the players here in the private sector who are coming to the party with some very enticing deals to get our mates here across the ditch. It is right that we are targeting the Australian visitors and bringing them here during the shoulder season. You know, our airlines, our airports and our accommodation providers all have spare capacity right now that's ready to be filled, and there are great deals to be done, and there is a brilliant time to visit. And just to give you a feel for it, there are 27 million Australians living in that country, and there are 4 million of them that actually have New Zealand on their bucket list of destinations that they want to visit before they die. And last year, I think we had almost 1.4 million Australians come here. So our job, very clearly, and the job of our tourism sector, is to make sure that we get New Zealand to the top of that bucket list of destinations that those Australians are considering, because it would be totally and utterly tragic if they don't get here before they do die. So we do want them here as quickly as possible. possible. And I just say we do love having our Australian friends here in New Zealand. It makes sense to bring out the welcome mat to them, and it's simply easy for them to jump on a plane and get over here very, very quickly. So, my message to Australians is it's time to swap the thongs for the jandals. It's time to swap the Hunter Valley for the Hawke's Bay, and get the bloody hell over here. And with that, I'll pass over to Louise to talk a little bit more about some of the campaign.
Thanks, Prime Minister. So 2025 is going to be an incredibly exciting year of growth for tourism, and this, one of the first announcements in Tourism Boost, is about kicking it off. So when the Tourism New Zealand marketing goes live in Australia, it really is about underscoring our commitment to drive international tourism as a significant part of our Going for Growth. We always love to see our Australian friends holidaying over here, filling our range of accommodation provision, soaking up the great Kiwi experiences, and of course enjoying hospitality in restaurants, bars and cafes, no matter where it is in New Zealand. But first of all, we've actually got to get them here. And so visitor numbers from Australia are currently at 88% of what they were in 2019. So we want that number to grow. And this campaign is all about encouraging them to come on over. And it is the first investment in what we're calling Tourism Boost, one of many to come. So it is a $500,000 investment. And as I said, there'll be more initiatives over the next coming weeks because this is urgent. We want, in this case, Australians to make that decision to come on over and do it fast. And it says we're open for business, there's some great deals, and it's just fantastic to have the support of the industry and to be really unified in saying, right, first cab off the rank, we want Australians to come and visit us. So the tagline of the campaign, everyone must go, lets Australia know that New Zealand is a must-visit destination and that we're waiting to welcome them right now. Back to you, Prime Minister.
Great. Well, thank you, Louise. And again, it's great to be powering up tourism again. It is an absolutely fantastic industry filled with positive people, can-do people, great entrepreneurs across the whole country. And I know this is the beginning of a lot more that we want to do. But with that, happy to take your questions.
Honestly, you said this is a targeted campaign just for, it sounds like a reasonably short period of time. Can you just explain how long it runs for?
Yeah, sure. Look, I mean, really what we're doing here is we have shoulder seasons, obviously, as we think about autumn and spring. And for us, we've got capacity sitting in our accommodation providers, with our airlines, and also with our activities as well. So it's just a really good chance to say to Australians, hey, listen, we want to crank it up in a very short period of time, running through March and April.
Yes. Yeah, so it complements the campaign that Tourism New Zealand have already got going into Australia. But it really, I just wanted to, bring a sense of urgency. So this campaign is really focused on getting more visitors in the next couple of months. It's not, but part of what we're doing is working with the airlines and the hotels by focusing on Australia. It's then saying, right, well, how do we all come together and maximise the impact? And that's what's really exciting about it. Government doesn't have to do it on its own, and we're not. And it's really complementing the work that the industry was already doing, and some cases is now doing more because we're leading by example.
And Simon, the other thing I'd just say is, $500,000 doesn't sound a lot, but when it's partnered up with private money as well, and there's deals that are being offered here by the accommodation providers, by the by the airlines, it does make a big difference. So that's $12.5 million of extra spending that actually comes into the New Zealand economy just off the back of this campaign. For every dollar we spend, we get about $18 back. And if Lou just said before, we were at 88%, this lifts us up to about 93%. So all in all, a small amount of really targeted money going in over a short period of time actually does create real growth and economic growth here in New Zealand.
You mentioned there are others to come. Can you give us an idea of what other countries you're targeting?
Well, you've heard us talk very strongly about tourism. When we look at tourism, it's one of the sectors that we know we are behind where we once were. And we've got capacity to grow currently. we're at 88%. We know we've still got a lot of capacity before we have to worry about infrastructure demand. So let's not worry. Let's get back to where we once were back in 2019. That's almost 6 years ago, and so that's our job number one. Job number two is, of course, we've got a big infrastructure program, as you know, across the country to support the continued growth of tourism beyond that. But for right here, right now, at a time when New Zealand needs to get this country growing, and we've said growth is our focus for this year, one of the quickest, easiest things we can do is turn on tourism. And the value is this, is that it's not just as I said, the enablers of the tourism sector, like the airlines and the airport companies and the hotel accommodation and all that kind of stuff. It's actually the money that's being spent in cafes and restaurants and in experiences. It's been great just to talk to Ian Jones today. He's done an incredible job leading the All Blacks experience. He's hoping they're going to get probably close to 50,000 visitors potentially coming through that experience in a year. That shapes New Zealand perceptions of New Zealand in terms of a very positive, punching above our weight sort of perception and reputation amongst our global visitors and amongst the global community. But also, everyone that's wanting to go to the visitor experience is inevitably dropping along somewhere else and having something else that they're spending money on. And so our job is to welcome them to New Zealand, and then to take the money out of their pocket and make sure that we get it into ours is really very much it's about.
The perception of New Zealand.
Yeah.
What did you make of what happened with Destiny Church yesterday, and what that might do for our reputation as a country?
Oh, look, I mean, we respect people's right to free speech. We respect people's right to peaceful protests. They went too far, and this is a country that values diversity and is well known for doing so. And New Zealand is a much better place because of the diversity that's in it.
Some of the demonstrators yesterday were wearing what looked like a patch on their t-shirts. Are you considering extending the gang patch ban to cover them as well?
Oh, look, I mean, we're really focusing on, organised crime and represented by those gang patches, and, the police have done an exceptionally good job. When I look at the demolition of the Comancheros gang, it's been absolutely fantastic, and I want to thank the police for the work that they're doing. As I keep saying, gangs are not nice. They are 1/4% of our population, driving 1/5 to 1/4 of our violent crime. And so the police have a job to do on that first and foremost. But again, my message from yesterday is that, we expect, people to have free speech. We expect people to be respectful and to have peaceful protests. They went too far, but bottom line is that this is a great country, that we celebrate diversity in this country. It's made us a better place, having a range of people with a range of views and perspectives. That's important.
Just to make it at least one or something like that, you feel as PM that you need to send a message to the members?
Well, I don't know how I can be any clearer than my message I've just said just now.
Are you going to the big gay out later today?
I'm not. I have been in the past though, and I really enjoy it. And I'm a big fan of what the Burnett Foundation have been doing around sexual health and HIV. They do incredible work. But I know we've got other, MPs and folk visiting over the course of yesterday and today.
Not because of the protest last year?
No. Look, I mean, that I think was a distraction from actually the core message of the Burnett Foundation, which I thought was really unfair on them. But no, it's just, I mean, I'm here today, but I'll be, I enjoyed going. I've been there the last few times as Prime Minister and even as Leader of the Opposition before.
Just back on the campaign, can you explain a bit more why Australia? I mean, the figures that are in the press release there say that we've seen increased numbers from Australia. Why not try a different country?
Because we want more, mate. We want more. We are ruthlessly ambitious and aspirational for this country, and it's great that we're at 88% with Australians, but we want more. We want to be at 93% through this investment, and then we want to push on to 100, and then we want to push on to 110 and 120, because this is an awesome joint, and those Australians need to get over here and see this great country of ours before they die. As I said, that's all very well having it on their bucket list, but we don't want 4 million keeping it on their bucket list. We want them coming here and experience it, because this is the best country on planet Earth, and we need the Australians to experience that.
One of the countries that hasn't bounced back as much as Australia is China.
Yep.
Any moves to do something similar with the Chinese market?
Yeah, look, Louise, as Tourism Minister, and Erica Stanford as Immigration Minister, are looking at what are the impediments and what are the barriers that we need to dismantle in order to get more Chinese visitors here as well. So that is something that Louise is already leading that work, working with Erica, and we'll have more to say about that shortly.
Prime Minister, a question on behalf of your colleague.
Yep.
schools and universities dealing with rising costs. Will Budget 2025 increase per student funding in line with or above inflation?
Well, look, I'm not going to talk about what's in and out of the budget, but you've seen a government that has been really keen to invest more in education in general. We've been very focused on what's our core set of challenges, and our core set of challenges is that we haven't had our kids in school with regular school attendance. We have half of our Year 8 kids arriving into high school not where they need to be at on reading, and we have sadly 80% of our students not where they need to be at on mathematics as they head into high school, and that's why you've seen us put huge amount of effort and resources and funding into things like structured literacy, structured mathematics, making sure we've got endless teacher resources and able to make that transition. You know, we've trained over, I think, about half our primary school teachers now on structured literacy. We've got another half to do this year. We've got our new mathematics program, which is more like Singapore Australian maths, which we've pulled together and is implemented right now. We accelerated that very, very quickly. So we have to get the kids to school. It's good to see that attendance is up 7 percentage points since we started the focus and the campaign. We've got the right reading and the right mathematics materials coming in. We've got to get those foundational bits right, because once we have our kids learning to read and to do maths, they can go on and do more advanced education. So we are bigger believers of investing more in education, but we also have been making sure that we are doing everything we can to reprioritise spending on the priorities that this government really cares about.
And on universities, though, I mean, universities dealing with rising costs, next steps, some relief.
Look, again, I'm not going to preempt budget conversations, but what I'm pleased about is the opportunity in universities is also to make sure, as you've seen with the changes I've made around the science sector and putting universities with the science sector under the leadership of Shane Retty, is to make sure that our universities are actually managing their IP in a way that they can actually commercialise their research and development across the work that they do. And that's something that we've seen in other small advanced economies, and we know that that ecosystem between the research and development that happens at universities and businesses and also within our Crown Institutes, we need to make that more joined up and less siloed, and that's an opportunity for academics in particular who are leading some pretty phenomenal research to make sure that it actually gets commercialised and they get to participate in that, and their research programs do too.
Can I ask you to put social development hat on just for a second?
Sure, absolutely.
The One News Herald poll this week did ask New Zealanders for their perception about the level of homelessness in the country. And the result was that 46% thought it was getting worse, about 39% thought it was the same, and only 10% thought things were improving. What's your reaction to that result about how people think about homelessness?
Yeah, I think the reality homelessness has been a challenge in New Zealand for a long time, and it is the sort of thing that people worry about. And the work that's happening with MSD and the providers who are working with homeless people on the ground is really important. They're continuing to do that. But one of the things I'm enormously proud of is the 1,900 fewer children that are in motels today. So we have, brought a very, very clear focus to our work in housing on children. And getting children out of motels, and that's an extraordinary result, and that's been a significant effort by MSD staff and the very agencies that I've just talked about. Yes, there's more work to do, but focusing on children first and foremost has been a very important success.
When you see it sitting maybe right in this
We've achieved that target, but actually it's more about further work to improve connecting people who are currently without homes. And if I look at the work that Minister Potaka and Bishop are doing around growing the number of houses, that's a significant part of it.
And what I'd say, Simon, is I think Louise and Tama Potaka and Chris Bishop have done an exceptionally good job on emergency housing. We used to talk about that for a decade, and we were ashamed about that. When we came to government, there was 3,200 households sitting in motels at that time. Today, there's 591. That does mean, exactly as Louise said, 2,000 kids now are in homes. They're out of motels. We've taken as many of the families with kids out of that environment as we possibly can and found them homes through either social housing wait lists, through the private rental market, or through community housing providers. So we are working really hard on that. You can see that rents across our government under the time we've been in government have been stable. You've seen that the state house wait list, social housing wait list, has come down by about 4,000 or 5,000 people, which is fantastic. There's 4,000 or 5,000 families that now are not on that wait list. And importantly, we've actually sorted out emergency housing, which I think was an abysmal response from the previous government. If you care about people, we want to make sure we get a housing policy that works at the rental market, that works at the social state housing housing market, and it works in the emergency accommodation. So, we've got more work to do, but it's a phenomenal achievement. I honestly believe it's one of the things I'm really proud about of our first year in government, that we actually have tackled that problem from the 1st of April, put a dedicated effort behind it, thanks to Louise and her team, working with Tama and his team to actually get these families into proper homes, and that's important.
Prime Minister, on the youth military academies,
Yep.
there is some calls to make the recidivism rate public because the bill is before Parliament, and I believe the Labour Party is quite keen to see the results of the recidivism rate. Is that something you consider?
Look, I mean, I've been and visited the military-style academies. I have to say I spent 4 or 5 hours there, interacted with the young people that were on it, and with the mentors that were part of the program as well. I was really impressed by it. We said we wanted to do a review to make sure that as we pass this legislation, that'll give us more flexibility to develop that program even in a better, more effective way. But I also think we have to respect the privacy of the people that are on that program. These are some of our most challenged kids. These are some of our most persistent, most serious young offenders that we actually have. And we are giving them an opportunity by taking them off the streets, but actually giving them an opportunity to make a powerful, targeted intervention in their life, so they at least have a choice about how they might want to live their life going forward from here. So this is, us doing exactly that. So, I'm sure there are things that we got really right and that went really well. There'll be things that we could improve on, but as we shape the legislation, which will give us more flexibility as to whether we keep these young people in the accommodation, in the residential component for longer or shorter, and we can flex that. That's important work. So we're not giving up on these young people. It's really important. These are our most hardcore, serious, persistent young offenders. They need people in their lives who are going to give them stuff that they haven't had up until this point in time, which is that belief in them, care for them, love for them, and offering them a direction and a pathway forward, so they get to live the next 20 years of their life choosing a different course than where it's heading to.
So will you make that data public?
We'll be respecting the privacy of the participants in the program. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. All right. Have a good day. Thanks so much.